Okay, so the next piece of this that we're going to talk about is obviously striking. Again, rifleman's posture, shoulders forward to hips, leaned into the balls of my feet, hands up, eye level, arms at or beyond 90 degrees for blocking incoming strikes. From there, I've either got outlet stance or I have modified isosceles, okay? Depending on which stance I choose, the first thing we're going to have to go over when I start striking and throwing punches is the actual structure of my wrist, of the alignment of my hand and my bones, so that I don't get what's called a boxer's fracture and break my pinky and my ring finger on either of my hands, all right? I want to prevent that. That's a bad thing. So the easiest way to teach it is knuckle push-ups, right? So ideally, I'm going to get down as if I'm going to do a push-up in like a plank position, and I am going to put the weight of my body across my knuckles, but primarily on my pointer finger and my middle finger, those two bones. The reason being is because these two fingers and the bones behind those two knuckles align with the major bone in the wrist, creating structural integrity. So when I hit with those two knuckles, I'm not going to break my fingers or fracture my wrist, in theory. Now, if you punch someone in the skull and the top of the head, there's still a good chance that that could happen. If you miss and punch a concrete wall, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Fighting, generally, is a stupid game. So be prepared that if you're going to engage in it, you're going to win stupid prizes. But that being said, you want the impact to be on these two top fingers, the pointer and the middle finger, and then you want your thumb. I've seen all sorts of crazy stuff with thumbs. When I was taking karate, when I was like 10 to 13 years old, it sticks in my mind to this day that my sensei was constantly on this one guy about he was always fighting with his thumbs up, and he kept telling him, you're going to break your thumbs, you're going to break your thumbs, and then eventually he spranged one of them pretty good. Thumbs down, not inside the hands, outside the hands. So it's pretty simple. I curl all my fingers in and put my thumb over those top two fingers, and top fingers are exposed, knuckles, right? That's a punch. I can kind of tighten up on impact and follow through. And other than that, up until the point that I'm about to make contact, I really kind of want to keep my hands loose. And I prefer open for the purposes of deflecting, grabbing, redirecting, and general fluidity. You know, in Muay Thai, when they throw elbows, they don't make this fist in the middle of their chest. They actually drop their hand down, keep things nice and loose, and then tighten up with their core and their shoulder muscles on follow through when they're making impact, okay? So other than when you're striking with the hands, your hands should be open to grab and acquire things. Okay, so coming back, I want to curl my fingers, thumb goes outside and over those fingers, and I'm going to be making impact with these two fingers, the pointer and the ring. I'm going to get down in a plank position, putting dispersing the weight obviously across my hand, but primarily I want to feel the impact and the main support on that pointer and that ring finger. Those two fingers are where I make that impact. I want to feel sound and structured, and essentially what I'm doing with this push-up is practicing good alignment of the wrist. If you get down and you do this and you feel pressure in your wrist, that's because you've got your arm slightly off angle from your fist and you don't have good wrist structure, good structural integrity. When you get down, the only pressure you should feel is in those knuckles, because the wrist is aligned over those two major fingers, and those two fingers are aligned with that major wrist bone, and your bones are lined up to create like a bipod, right? Like two sticks. They're lined up like two sticks, so you're not really using muscle to hold yourself up. You're using the alignment of the bones to hold yourself up. If you feel like you're using a whole lot of muscle, then your wrists and your arms and your bones in general are out of structural alignment, right? We want to use bone structure, not muscle, and align those wrists so it's one straight line, with the impact being primarily on those two fingers, okay? So that's the structure of the punch. The only thing I'll say caveat to that is that when you're doing that push-up, your elbows are fully locked out for practicing the structural integrity. But when you punch, you never fully lock out your elbows. You'll get tennis elbow, you'll hyperextend, right? You still, like on impact, you still want to have a slight bend in the elbow so that you don't get hyperextension and really develop tennis elbow over time, especially punching on bags and focus mitts and other people's faces, albeit doing it safe and sparring. Over time, keep whipping those arms out and locking those elbows out every time you throw a punch. Eventually, you won't be able to use your thumbs anymore, right? So I experienced that for about a year. And really more from my weight training and just kind of overusing the arm. And I had to go through, physical therapy and stuff like that to get the feeling back, which is feasible. But turns out it was a upper shoulder injury and tennis elbow. So don't fully extend your arms, all right? Slight bend on impact. So again, I get down, push up, impact, these two knuckles, align the bones so that you can kind of just relax in that plank. All right, if your core's weak, your core's weak. Can't do anything about that. Just do more planks. But make sure you got a good solid alignment. And then when you make impact, you want that same sort of alignment, right? Every time you make impact.